Well, let's get on the back of all that we have by way of the newspapers and get to see a number of them. And Israel is joining us as usual. I don't know whether we have Joseph. Yeah, indeed we do have Joseph. We're having some problem with his broadband. Doesn't use broadband at all. Mama V is here. I know Israel uses a broadband because Israel, Charlie, live transmission, prime, sharp. It's Joseph, I don't know. I think using mobile hotspot. Joseph, how are you?
You have some concerns regarding my data provider. Yeah, I can send a name, then you can attack them directly.
No, let's not attack them. You never know where we're going to work next. You are before an interview panel, then they said
compare the quality of my data.
You appear before an interview panel, they'll say you post.
No, but what does that have to do with anything, Roland? I mean, the most important thing is that you have the connection, and you can see us and we can see them.
Anyway.
But Roland, I want to ask. This morning, you made a dedication.
Yes, I have more.
And then,
thank you for reminding me.
You actually said that it's your birthday today. It's coming belated.
Yeah, because I was reading and I saw that it was belated. So forgive me for that.
I was the only confused one. Roland was all over the place.
Yeah. Okay.
But what is it with you and birthdays? I'm not even sure whether it's a person's birthday anyway.
As usual, making stuff up.
Roland, say hello to me so I can get onto the...
One, I don't lie. Two, Mama V is here. Mama V, good morning. Israel, how's your family? Mama V, how are you?
Everybody's well.
Everybody's well.
How about yours?
Charlie, we did top.
Roland Walker.
Okay, good.
Yes, ma'am.
Shall we do the newspapers?
Yeah.
Okay, morning to you guys.
Good morning to you, Mama.
Do you get a sense that at the end of the month, the president is going to lift the restrictions that we have because he's been talking and warming us into that?
It's sounding like it actually, because this morning on the news he was speaking yesterday at the Flagstaff House, Jubilee House, and it was like he was dropping hints.
Yes.
And I'm concerned that he said the recovery. He's impressed with the rate of recovery. Yeah. So don't worry.
Well, he was meeting some chiefs from my area, the Anglon area, but we will share a bit of that with you. Hopefully we can see some of the stories in the newspapers. I have the Ghanaian Times. Izzy, you've got the Daily Graphic and the Business and Financial Times. Joseph Akable will do the Daily Guide. So shall we begin with the graphic, Izzy?
Okay, all right, let's start with the graphic. So on the front page of the graphic, ADB invests 500 million cedis in the poultry sector, aims to boost local chicken production and cut imports. Parliament approves for Supreme Court, says they exhibited competence. Results of MP's COVID-19 test won't be made public, medical director, and graphic gets results. And then on the back page, AMA pulls down structures at Jamestown Beach for fishing harbor project, and woman jailed 8 years for stealing 2 children. And then the Business and Financial Times, average lending rate drops marginally in April following BOG's earlier policy rate cut. Reversal of benchmark values will save our jobs. That's the local oil palm industry. Ashanti Region Police clamp down on fake insurance cartel. And we also have hotels must innovate to beat market competition post-COVID-19, and then the state of the share policy and regulations. On the back page, GAB makes executive appointment and MTN donates towards Ramadan. And then also, Business and Financial Times, World Bank supports 100 countries in response to COVID-19 pandemic. Unprecedented crisis could push up to 60 million into extreme poverty. Wow. All right, so that's what we have for the papers.
All right, let's do the Ghanaian Times. Front page of the Times. We will ease COVID-19 restrictions if pandemic-associated deaths reduce, according to the president. Also, President others observe 25th anniversary of Kumi Preko demonstration. Parliament approves all 4 Supreme Court nominees. Bishop Obinim still in police custody over failure to meet bail bond. And guess who we sat down with to have a conversation, and the issue of Obinim coming up strongly in that conversation is Ken Ejapong. We've got a conversation with him. Very interesting, very revealing.
Oh, looking forward to it.
I look forward to that one.
Look forward to it.
We have Ken Ejapong.
Center spread of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. EC outlines COVID-19 measures for compilation of new voters register. We have the General Secretary of the NDC. Will be very interesting to hear from him after the EC laying out some measures, what they have to say as a political party. Well, big parts of the election, by the way. We will ease, okay, so full story of that, the story, the easing of COVID-19 restrictions in the center spread. And then back page of the Times, the Upper East Regional Director of Agriculture has assured farmers in the region that the Ministry of Food and Agriculture will not withdraw the interventions to them in this farming season as a result of COVID-19. Details of that. Also, assembly to construct 142 stores at whole markets. So that's how the back page of the Times looks like. Joseph, Daily Guide.
Yes, the front page of the Daily Guide, we have NDC fights NPP over killing plots, and pressure on Mahama to check AIDS also on the front page. And you have this story about a Tema refinery worker kills security guard. Health Minister fights NDC over abandoned hospital projects, and UTAG makes input into varsity bill. It comes along with a photograph of the Minister for Education, Matthew Poku Prempe. The center spread has a number of stories, including Apreku, my daughter, found dead in the center spread. There's also a story about an actress, Victoria Mensa, saying, "I'm not dead." And Guta calls for DHS at airports. And BOJ's support to banks is up, according to the Information Minister, Kojapon Nkoma, in the center spread.
Well, let me do the Daily Dispatch newspaper. I have on the front page, Ghana reports assessment of some 123 first-term MPs. So we have an assessment of these first-term MPs, and 51% of MPP MPs said to be doing well, excelling actually, and 31% of NDC MPs, first-timers, excelling. They also have a lot on the new voter register because according to the Daily Dispatch, the quoting the EC, only 25 people will be allowed at the time. Social distancing to be maintained, if you read the story. Let's go to the Daily Statesman newspaper. Has on the front page, CID probes Mills' death. Mahama, Abronye fight to open can of worms, question. That's the Daily Statesman newspaper. Up there we have Parliament approves nomination of 4 Supreme Court judges, and well, this one didn't get everybody surprised or anybody surprised at all. 30 health workers infected with coronavirus in the Ashanti region. We featured this one comprehensively by the close of the news day on Wednesday. It's also there.
You know, relatedly, the General Secretary of the Registered Nurses and Midwives Association has also disclosed that 41 nurses and midwives have tested positive for COVID-19. One person has died. Yeah. So, which one is our pick? Let me start. I wanted us to. So there's been an increase in the case count. So let's get to the Ghana Health Service website, and then we can talk about the related matters to this and the president's intentions, well, based on some of the things that he's been saying that we're picking. But the confirmed cases now 6,269, 31 deaths, and the recoveries going up 1,898 as well. So that's the latest updates in terms of our COVID-19 case counts. The confirmed cases 6,269, recoveries 1,898 recoveries, and 31 deaths. But yeah, now we have a figure because, you know, we kept asking in terms of medical personnel who has been infected and who has not. We have been talking to individuals who have tested positive. Some have recovered, thank God. But now the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association has given a number, 41 nurses and midwives testing positive, and one person has died because of COVID-19.
And we know that the current number we have is an increment of 178 from yesterday's. Yesterday we talked about, and I posed this to you, Israel and Joe. It will start with Israel. Yesterday we talked about how this could be an indication that maybe the cases are flattening, but the rate at which they keep being recorded and posted, I don't know whether it creates some fright also in you.
Well, in my case, I'm not sure if the cases are flattening. We may be recording fewer numbers or fewer increases. But what I'd also want to find out is how many tests are we doing? Are we testing as aggressively as we did some time ago? Because I know in some communities like Nima and the rest, we're being told that there are lots of people who have COVID-19. So we have identified some, but have we been able to extract everybody? Especially on the back of reports yesterday, we had this lady, this contact tracer, who was talking about the fact that you call some of the people who have COVID-19 and you're trying to get them out of the system, and then they threaten you. They tell you that they're going to kill you if you ever call them again. So it's obvious that there are some people in communities who have COVID-19 who are refusing to be taken to treatment centers, which means they are infecting other people. What efforts are we doing to do some mass testing around people like that, or in communities like that where we know hotspots, or we know there are quite a significant number of people there? So if we were doing aggressive testing, maybe we have decided that we're going to do what? We have the capacity, I'm told, of about 10,000 tests a day. Can we decide that we're going to do 10,000 tests every day for the next, 2-3 weeks? And if we do that and we're still seeing a fewer number of cases, then yes, we can say that we're flattening the curve. But at this point, I'm not so sure.
Because just this morning, the WHO was saying that even though the biggest cases have been reported in the developed world, especially in the US, etc., there's a great indication that the overnight cases or the last 24-hour cases have been reported in the developing world. And they are hoping that this does not spark any concerns because of the weak health systems that the developing world seems to have. And I know that we seem to be cocooned here because we're doing so well relatively on the back of all the things that have been and the actions taken by government. But we also need to be mindful of what is happening outside the world, Joe.
Yes, we need to be mindful of that. But obviously, we need to keep our eye on the ball. And it's something that the president said some weeks back when he made a point that indeed, if we have a lot of people getting infected, the pressure on our healthcare system will come to bear. And that's a very important aspect that we need to be concerned about. And so while the rising numbers in recoveries is good news for us, we should know that at least as of now, we have a lot of people, maybe 4,000 around that figure, who are currently in various state facilities who are being catered for. And I recall an interview we had with Dr. Kaba, who is in charge of the intensive care division, making the point that the data suggests that people who are being kept in health facilities are recovering faster than those who are being taken care of at home. And so we need to be very concerned about the rising cases, especially because we can't actually even keep people at home in a manner that they don't have to share certain facilities with other people they live in the same house with. And so, yes, it appears for the past few days the cases are indeed coming from the developing countries. We need to be very much concerned, and like Israel made a point, and it's good they've started with Parliament. They must start with identifiable groups and go all out and test those people. I mean, everyone in identifiable groups. That should be the starting point, and from there we can see to go out in the streets and try and test as many people as possible so that we remove those people from the communities and we don't have anyone who has the virus roaming around, because the more we have people getting infected, our health system will definitely suffer.
Well, a place that they're already worried because there's overcrowding is in Sawam Medium prisons. They're worried that they cannot social distance and the places already overcrowded, and they fear that if they record one positive case, it will be disastrous. So they've also been in the news this morning talking about that issue.
Yeah, I think we should be looking at a presidential pardon maybe. I mean, for people, I mean, it's done periodically, mostly during the 6th March celebration, among others. We may choose to exercise some. The president should look at
just last week, how many people didn't we send to prison, Joseph? We've been sending people there.
Yes, we have been, but I mean, we are in desperate times. We are not in ordinary times, and so we should look out for persons who, for some, you know, those pardons come from recommendation from the prison council. I'm sure there are various recommendations that go, but they are looked at periodically. We should be taking a look at some of them quickly and getting people, petty offenses, people who have been of good behavior out of the prisons quickly, just to try and decongest it a bit.
And the prisons, in some prisons, they have been talking about the fact that should they record a case, there's going to be catastrophic. But I'm wondering, have they actually done any tests? Do they know whether they probably they're dealing with cases that they're unaware of? So probably at this moment, as we're speaking, there's somebody in there who has an infection and who's just passing it on to the prisoners. I think the earlier we find out, the better it will be for us, because I mean, otherwise it's going to.
So what is most important there? Is the social distancing, which they cannot do, they say, or testing?
I think they should actually start with testing. They should.
Yeah,
I think
that should be the next step.
All the prisoners, if they test the prisoners and they find out if there are any, they can probably, you know, move them or relocate them to a section of the facility, or if it means that they have to move all those who have COVID from Insawam and send them to a particular prison and bring the others to, like, because you don't want to congest the place, then you bring the others. We can decide to have a prison facility that's just for COVID prisoners. If we find out that the numbers are, you know,
well, I don't know. Perhaps we can follow what the U.S. has done. Michael Cohen, we do know that longtime fixer and lawyer of Donald Trump, was just released, or it has been announced to be released because he has to serve the rest of his term, 3 years remaining, in the House, just because of coronavirus and the spread in the U.S. Perhaps we can take something like that. I don't know how it's going to be to have someone who has been in prison to be released back to my community in Ashaiman to come and serve his term. It
just means house arrest or something, or you serve the rest at home.
No, you see, I can imagine that in the U.S. they have ways of doing that and being able to monitor the people. Well, and especially this guy is a high profile prisoner, and so it becomes difficult for him to abscond. But if you're talking about a shaman, so I mentioned a shaman, Roland.
Fantastic.
If you send somebody back into a shaman, how do you monitor whether the person is still there? Or
it's no problem. We just release him into the community. We will be watching him. So when the police are coming, somebody is standing at the traffic light calling them, we know that he has to come back to base. It's how we do it in our ghettos. It's normal.
Any other picks? Any other stories that we want to highlight on?
Yeah, it's the related issue about the approval of the 4 Supreme Court judges. And yesterday, or 3 days ago, we had an interaction with Inusa Fuseni right here in the studio, and he was vehemently opposed to the approval of Clement Onyenuga as a Supreme Court judge. And I want to ask Joe, we know that ultimately the NDC decided to rescind their resistance, that decision ultimately, but it's also because of a related concern which could repeat itself in our history, where we have a personality who is of high profile judge, and then also maybe is a traditional leader, praises the president of the line. Could happen once again. But he talked about how somebody needs to make sure that he's sort of proven integrity and morality, so to speak.
That test.
I think generally we should commend Parliament. I mean, for the quick manner in which they dealt with those veterans, and the issue that came up, I thought it was a very significant issue that, I mean, it offered us the opportunity to deal with it once and for all, especially since we've dealt with it previously, relating to Justice Daniel Mensa, also High Court Judge at the General Judicial Chief in the then Bonafo region as well, who made comments that people suggested endorsed Mama. I don't know whether we've dealt with this issue in a manner that we are all satisfied with, because the whole idea behind the code of conduct for judicial officers is to ensure that you eliminate anything that has the semblance of bias completely, because you have individuals who will appear before you. You don't want to give them something to latch onto. And Justice Tanko nailed it when he said that he realized over a period of practice that there were people who definitely were raising objections simply because they know that a judge may rule against them legally, but when they have extra legal reasons to raise objections, they just latch onto those ones. And that is what such comments, unfortunate comments, ends up bringing up. And so I'm not too sure whether we dealt with it in a manner that we are satisfied that it won't repeat itself again, because the apology is like, okay, if I've offended someone, I'm sorry. But more importantly, what about those who don't actually say it and end up acting in ways that affect us? And that is where we should be paying attention to. I'm sure this may come up some other time. We just hope that people who occupy such positions of trust don't conduct themselves in ways that allow people the opportunities to attack them like it's happened.
Okay, so for me, I'm curious. When he had an explanation, he said he was speaking on behalf of his people. And
that's what
I'm wondering if that is tenable. So somebody can say, well, I said this, but I was speaking on behalf of my people as a chief. Is that allowed? And that's another question. We should.
I guess you can go to town and try anything and see whether they wouldn't say it's Israeli or JoyNews. I mean, you can't separate the two.
Yeah.
No, it won't be JoyNews. It will be multimedia. Trust me.
Yeah, it's just who you are, and so you need to be mindful of that at all times.
Yeah. The elections coming up with the campaigns, it will be heated irrespective of the fact that COVID is here as well. And we'll begin to see a lot of these things. We'll hear chiefs making comments, and then we'll begin to talk about the Constitution. Well, so let's see what happens, but this will definitely show its face again. Let's check out myjoyonline.com, or
before then, there's one story that I have here on the back page of the Daily Graphic. It's a woman jailed 8 years for stealing 2 children. And this should be of interest to you, Roland. It says a 29-year-old woman who stole 2 children at a shaman has been sentenced to 8 years imprisonment in hard labor by the Shaman Circuit Court. And then we move on to, apparently she says she has an explanation. She says she told the court that the mother of the 11-month-old girl asked her to take care of her daughter while she, the mother, attended to her chores. Elizabeth said she was about to travel, so she asked the 11-year-old boy to return the baby to her mother, only to realize that the 2 children had followed her to the transport terminal, so she decided to travel with them.
Hey!
That's an alibi. but
she didn't see the children, only when she got to the terminal.
Yeah.
Well,
and she decided to travel with him.
I mean, at that point, she was in a hurry, I guess. I mean, she couldn't go back and send the children. So she says, okay, let's go. So
but I just wish, I wish that sometimes, there will be some form of either psychological or some support to persons like that. There should be something else underneath.
Maybe I thought this story was for Roland Walker.
Oh, okay, Roland.
For obvious reasons.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, because I grew up in the community. Yeah, definitely.
But that's how you do it in the ghetto, right?
Oh, no, not this one. But I think that if you look at the layout and the demographics, it's normal. It's a congested community. Children are allowed to roam the streets, go to the next house, because the next house is just a gutter away or just a plain place away. So it speaks to the bigger issue about how parents are also looking out for their children in such communities, and where we have such situations, how we will be able to prevent them. I know that when I was growing up, there were a number of incidents like that. People will say, and sometimes you never get to find the children 5 years, 10 years down the line.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's not a surprising situation, but it's good that she has been apprehended and subsequently faced the full rigors of the law. Well, we have to go to myjoyonline.com, and Israel will take us through myjoyonline.com, so we'll give him time to open it up. While he's doing that, I have also time to say good morning to you, beautiful lady Rebecca Sapak. You live in Community 25, so good time for me to...
Are you for real, Roland?
Yeah, I'm for real. Israel, are you ready with myjoyonline.com?
I'm ready with myjoyonline.com. So the main story we have: Ghana records 6,269 COVID-19 cases. Recovery is now 1,889. 1998. Parliament approves all 4 Supreme Court nominees, and popular pastor Preku My Daughter dies. Ukwapman Queen Mother allegedly rejects 62 sheep from government to settle a dispute. NDC MP Nusef Hussaini backs reopening of schools in small bits. Wipa Authority demolishes burns shelters at Lapla community. Obilim arrested, charged with publication of false news and forgery. Multimedia Group Wilma Africa donate to female frontline health workers, and man who chopped off son's ear sentenced to 2 years imprisonment. Right, and also on My Joy Online, the interview that Evans had with Haruna Idrisu, it's there. You can get to see it. That's BM Express.
Yeah, there's also a related story about Ernest Abuchi, now appointed as the Dean of UPSA Faculty of Law.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Congratulations to him. He's a fantastic teacher.
So biased.
And students will love him. Absolutely.
He's a fantastic teacher.
He is.
Okay.
He's a fantastic teacher.
Mr. Ernest Abuchi, good morning. Fantastic man.
He's a good teacher. I mean, he's a good teacher of the law.
Right,
Yeah.
right. All right. If nobody will say anything, we have to take a break. Benjamin Tufominu, you live in the United Kingdom. Good morning to you. We're taking a break.
Okay, no.
I don't suspect you and Waka makes some money from this thing he's been doing.
Thank you, Joe. But I wanted to remind you all that there's a press briefing. So, you know, the press briefing is on Tuesdays and on Thursdays on COVID-19. And what has been tabled, according to the Ministry of Information, updates on case counts and case management, also dynamics of the virus in Ghana, confronting stigma, and then updates on COVID-19 alleviation program business support scheme. So those are the 4 items that they've tabled. After this went out yesterday, there were people who were surprised that there was no education featuring, you know, on that bill, especially because education has been absolutely topical. We'll bring you, you know, live, of course, coverage of that. But I told you all at the beginning that I sat down with Kennedy Japan. And here's just a little bit of what you should expect. Wait for it.